says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you lusting is the one you're loving?
The man, the myth, the legend, he is running for president. 30 years ago, Race Matters came out, and now he is throwing his hat in the ring to be the president of these United States. Let me welcome brother Cornel West, doctor.
I want to say thank you, my dear sister, Professor Karen Hunter of Hunter College. Yes, indeed. But I salute you, salute your precious loved ones, and what a force for good you have been and remain.
Well, thank you. I must admit, sir, when I saw this commercial, the first question in my mind was why? Why did you need to do this? Why are you doing this, Cornel West? Why?
No, I hear you. No, the calling is still the same. It's been the same for 55 years. Trying to the best of my fallible ability to tell the truth. Condition of truth is to allow suffering to speak, especially the least of these. And then justice, making sure people are treated with dignity and sanctity. You know what I mean?
So
Now
this
it
couldn't
is.
happen.
It
I'm sorry.
spills over in electoral politics now.
It doesn't though. I mean, because I just did a really quick civics lesson, right? The president is a specific thing. You got three duties. You're a statesman, you support you appoint the Supreme Court, and you got the nuclear codes. So do we need Dr. Cornel West to have those things? Don't we need you in them streets doing what you've been doing?
Well, I'm gonna still hit the streets even as president, you see, because of my conception of what it is to be a public official is to be a servant. The servant takes a lot of different forms. So that on the one hand, you got your head of foreign policy, right? You got 800 military units around the world. You got U.S. troops in over 100 countries. We don't need to have that many military units. We don't need to be an empire at all. I want to be head of the empire to dismantle the empire in the name of what? Empowering those Sly Stone called everyday people, those James Cleveland called ordinary people. How do you save your democracy? You got to let your empire go. We don't need to be the empire in the world. We need to be a nation among nations. That's what the legacy of Martin Luther King Jr. and Fannie Lou Hamer looks like in the White House. That's what it looks like in electoral politics, right? We're going to eliminate poverty. We're going to cut back on militarism. We're going to make sure any form of xenophobia, racism, sexism, transphobia, homophobia, anti-Jewish, anti-Arab, anti-Muslim, it has no place in our public life. We're going to create a bully pulpit that says we ought to be about what John Coltrane called the love supreme. And that's not mamby-pamby love. No, we're talking about the love of a hated people for 400 years. That's what you hear in John Coltrane's horn. That's what my campaign is about. Justice is what love looks like in public.
All right. Walk us through this. Dr. Cornel West is here. He is running for president of these United States. When did you make this decision? Walk us through the moment you said, you know what? I'm going to file this paperwork and I'm going to get the signatures I need, and I'm going to be on the ballot. When did you make this decision, and how did it come about?
Well, it was first, brother from the People's Party, Brother Nick, came up and gave me a call, as well as my dear brother Chris Hedges, and said, we've been thinking seriously of having you all run for office. We met, we talked for hours. Brother Chris said, no, I got to think about it a little bit longer and decided let me hold back. I thought about it, prayed on it, pondered on it. And I said, this country is in such internal decay and external decline that it would be wonderful to reintroduce America to the best of itself. And who is the best of America? Martin Luther King Jr., Rabbi Heschel, Dorothy Day, Grace Lee Ball, Edward Said, Fannie Lou Hamer, Ella Baker. We ain't got the Ella Fitzgerald, Louis Armstrong yet. The best in this nation over the last 200 and some years that can do what? That can revitalize and regalvanize the democratic energies. What are democratic energies? Energies that focus on the basic social needs of everyday people. Quality education, healthcare for all, decent housing, food. It's hard to even think of food insecurity that's so rampant in the richest nation in the history of the world. And I knew that neither political party, Democrats and Republicans, really speak to the needs of poor and working people. They both tie to corporate interests. They're captured by the wealthy.
Nick Brana, who has some controversy around him himself, part of the Draft Bernie for People's Party group, Draft Bernie movement for the People Party. He founded it, got some, little issues, came to you and said, this is something. Is this to bring the agenda? Because I understand, primaries are important for bringing agendas to the forefront so that people now are forced to have to talk about the things that they wouldn't be inclined to talk about if they're running unopposed. Is this the candidacy, or are you really trying to win?
Oh, I'm trying to win. You see, I made the shift to the Green Party, as you know. Thank God, Sister Jill Stein and Brother John Baraka and the others. And the Green Party, of course, has much more ballot access when it comes to number of states. But no, anytime you come out of the box, you're coming out to win. No doubt about that. Now, it's true, winning can be defined in a number of different ways. But no, I want to, through my own fallible self, because I'm a cracked vessel like anybody else, but I've had so much love poured into me. I want to bear witness to that love. I've been taught some things about justice and freedom. I want to bear witness to that justice and freedom. I'm just a moment in a much larger tradition, a much larger movement. You see, there'd never be such a thing as Black freedom, as you know, written about so wonderfully in so many different contexts with different figures and things, that the ballot is not the sole or fundamental site that people become free. It is one particular site in a larger conception of human beings who have a variety of different dimensions to their lives. And so the political goes hand in hand with the personal and the social and the economic and the existential and the spiritual. And for me, I'm just one moment, one candidate, one heading of a campaign in light of a much longer, long tradition of struggle. And it's just a matter of holding up that bloodstained banner in the name of the least of these. I speak, of course, as a revolutionary Christian. So the 25th chapter of Matthew means a whole lot to me. What you've done to the least of these, you've done unto me. The orphan, the widow, the fatherless, the motherless, the oppressed, no matter what color, no matter what gender, no matter what sexual orientation, no matter what national identity.
866-801-8255. I'm gonna put the number out because we have a live national audience. So these potentially could be, your constituents. They want, so I don't want to hog up, the time to ask you questions because I do have questions, but I also want folk whose vote you are courting to be able to also ask questions. As you know, this is that, Urban View is that show, is that channel here. Amazing audience that are very politically and civically engaged. They not only vote, they register other people and they donate to candidates and et cetera. 866-801-8255. I look at the time that we're in. We're in a particular time in history that 200 years from now will be in the history books, if there's still books, because we have not just, there's been a convergence of a lot of things at the same time. I also feel like with the emergence of a DeSantis and a Trump still there with all of the indictments, he probably will win from jail if he's on the ballot, right? Is this the time for, and I'm firm in understanding that we need a third party. I'm firm that we need probably a fourth and a fifth party. I'm firm in the notion that we need more choices, right? But is this the time, as we look at the country and the fragility of it, with the racists that have overtaken the Republican Party, and they are really clear about their agendas, anti-Black and everything else, right? Anti-rights, everything. Is this the time to start to cast aspersions on the only candidate right now that has a shot to win, which is Joe Biden and Kamala Harris? Is this the time to do that? And what's the strategy there? Because I want to, because if you undermine him, you're making it easy for whoever comes out of the Republican Party to win.
Well, you're absolutely right to acknowledge the way in which Trump himself, Brother Trump is a gangster dead up. He's a neo-fascist and a gangster. He's already won. He's got a following, a slice of the country. Now, keep in mind now, 1 out of 9 folk who voted for Trump voted for Brother Bernie Sanders. And of course, as you know, I was with Brother Bernie twice, right? And so Trump being himself a neo-fascist is someone who hides the fact that big money and big military is behind him, but convinces everyday people to scapegoat the most vulnerable rather than confront the most powerful. So he acts like he's a populist, but he's actually a neo-fascist because he still cuts taxes for the rich. He still demonizes gays, lesbians, immigrants, Black folk, Muslims, Arabs, and so forth and so on. See, trans especially. Trans is probably the most vulnerable, precious folk in our society right now in terms of the vicious attacks. So you're right, that neo-fascism is strong. But the problem is, you see, is that Brother Biden, who you know, of course, is one of the architects of mass incarceration. You know, for me, that's a crime against humanity. I've taught in prison for 41 years.
Wait, pause, Dr. West. Are you saying as a member of the Senate?
As a member of the Senate, 1994.
Okay, so he wasn't alone.
Oh, no.
And that was under Clinton. If I'm not, like Clinton, Bush, like there's been a mass
he led the charge under the Democratic Party. So this is a critique, not just of Biden, but of the Democratic Party under Clinton and Gore. You're absolutely right. And many Black politicians kicked in.
Yes, because they were asking for relief because of the crack that, I mean, but what I'm saying is there's a thread that can be pulled and go all the way back to Ehrlichman and Nixon that has been a constant drumbeat that nobody has challenged because we allowed these folk to come into our churches and we just voted. And now that we know better, we can do better. But you're not wrong, but is now the time. And can people not be pushed into the way LBJ was pushed into doing something that Southern redneck did not want to do, but all of those voting rights acts came under his watch because he was forced into it by a country of Black folk that said no more. Martin Luther King said, "We not waiting."
But see, what we had against LBJ was you had a movement of courageous folk like Fannie Lou and Ella and Martin and Diane Nash and James Lawson who were doing the pushing. We haven't had enough Black leaders pushing Biden to deal with poverty, pushing Biden to deal with mass incarceration, pushing Biden to deal with homelessness, pushing Biden to deal with quality housing. No,
aren't you a Black leader? Dr. West,
I'm an elected official. I've been raising my voice. I was doing that against Obama, as you know.
Because all those people you named were not elected. Fannie Lou Hamer, Diane Nash, none of them were elected. They were pushing from the outside.
They were pushing from the outside, but they had a movement. I mean, under Obama, we tried to talk about poverty. I was smiling at myself.
Okay, oh my goodness. Okay, you bring up Obama. All right, you brought up Obama. Hold on.
What Biden hasn't had is pressure to deal with the needs of poor and working people, especially Black folk.
So why not put the pressure on the people that have access? Like there were people that went into Obama's White House to go to Super Bowl parties and hang out and take pictures. If I can tell you how many people had a picture of themselves with Obama, with the Obamas at the White House, and I'm like, we ain't getting nothing there. And then you complaining about the 8 years when you ain't asked for nothing but a picture. So is that Obama's fault or is that our fault?
Well, it's both. It's both. Because Obama shouldn't even need to have people put pressure on it. You see what he did for Wall Street? Wall Street didn't have to go in. He bailed Wall Street out. Not one Wall Street executive goes to jail, given all the crimes taking place, the insider trading and market manipulation. So
what happened to the Wall Street project? Wait, hold on. But there was a Wall Street project led by a civil rights activist that could have said, "Hey, buddy."
That's true.
Especially since that same activist said he wanted to cut off his balls on a hot mic. Hey, guess what? You've given that money.
Brother Jesse.
I'm saying, like we got to call it what it is and tell the truth. Shame the devil.
You got to tell it, and the truth is always double-edged. It goes against us and it goes against others. But my point is this: that right now with Joe Biden moving toward World War III with the proxy war with Russia. You got Trump moving toward the second civil war at home, Biden leading toward the third world war abroad. We're between a rock and a hard place. Now, what we gonna do, given our calling, given our integrity?
Here's what I'm saying.
For the vulnerable, the relatively weak politically. That's what this campaign is about, which is the same thing as what the Black freedom struggle has been about ever since Harriet Tubman and Frederick Douglass and the others had to go into the belly of the white supremacist slavocratic beast. That's all I'm doing.
Would it be more effective, Dr. West, because you are a philosophical genius. You think deeply about things, both spiritual and practical. Would it not be more effective for us to have a movement, lead a movement that would usher in all of the things across parties, right? Because to me, I just want the stuff to get done. I don't care whether you have an R or a D next to your name. I just need it to get done. We live someplace. If you are representing my community, you need to get it done or else, right?
Yes.
And that or else needs to be really, really codified. We need to spell it out, right? So that people understand. So it has teeth behind it. To your point, I feel like a lot of folk come and they get a check or a pat on the head and it's enough. But instead of throwing our ire against the people who represent us that we didn't elect to represent us, we didn't take a vote and say, this is the person you should talk to. We should roundly say that's not who you should be talking to, because we didn't tell you to talk to them and they can't deliver anything.
But see, one big difference between Martin King and Fannie Lou Hamer and most of our leaders today is that these days people are easily co-optable. They get incorporated so quick. They're so glad to be a Black face in a high place that they become complacent and so comfortable with themselves and their position. They become so well adjusted to injustice. You see, Martin and them wouldn't do that. Now, it's very interesting. I just announced a few weeks ago, right?
You did, yep.
You giving all these attacks on me. I'm going to determine the whole election. I'm just a fallible Black man that announced a few weeks ago, and now they think I'm so powerful. All I'm trying to do is bear witness, and I'm going to use whatever power I have to be true to my calling and my God and my poor and working people here and around the world. That's who I am. That's what it is to be, you see?
Because we are students of history, both of us. Me less than you. I don't have the degrees to put that on my chest. But I remember Hillary Clinton was running for president. You supported Bernie Sanders, right?
That's
and a lot of people didn't vote in that election because of super predator, because of the Clintons, and they have
mass incarceration.
Right. Same thing that we're in right now.
That's true.
And Hillary lost, and we got Trump during a pandemic with a person who can't read, didn't have the pandemic plan. A lot of our community suffered and died. A lot of the misinformation put people's lives in jeopardy, not to mention the climate in this country. Woo-wee, because people and I saw Mark Lamont Hill, who was very much a Bernie bro and was very
right.
That division with Jill Stein, with all of that, created an environment and listen, I was never a fan of Hillary. What I said then is what I'm saying now. It was about the Supreme Court. I could give a damn if Hillary was in that pizza shop. There's going to be 1, 2, maybe 3 Supreme Court seats, and that's going to impact our lives for the next 2 generations. I said that from day one. I was right. Right. We're here again, Dr. West. And why would we make the same mistake? Because that was a mistake.
Well, there are other factors, my dear sister, namely that if Sister Ruth had left earlier from the court, that would have made a difference.
Yes.
And if they had put pressure on Mitch McConnell, Mitch held that seat empty for all of those months, and the Democrats didn't go ballistic. Obama didn't go ballistic. They succumbed to that manipulation. So something like that, you got to come out swinging on. Now, that doesn't mean you're not right, because the Supreme Court is still central. If Hillary had won, there would be different people on the court. There's no doubt about that. But these other factors are very important too, in real time. And so now, on the other hand, Hillary is like Biden. You see, she's so tied to militarism. Neither one have seen a war that they have not supported. And that's dangerous, not just here, but around the world when you have World War III possibilities with nuclear exchange. And so So that as much as I would have not wanted Trump, and that's why I actually supported Biden last time, I thought that he was going to really deliver for poor and working people because I was part of the committee that Bernie put me on the committee to put pressure on the Democratic Party. What happens? That progressive wing is just window dressing for a corporate Democratic Party. What have they actually done? Not just for poor people and working people, but around the world. You got the Palestinians on the West Bank getting shot down like I don't know what. Doesn't make any difference what party the president is. Those are human beings too. If they were Lithuanians, if they were Jewish, if they were Black, if they were brown, I would be just as concerned. But that's U.S. foreign policy. Foreign policy and domestic policy go hand in hand. They're tied together.
So Bernie Sanders, Senator Sanders, from a very homogenous state, by the way.
But out of Brooklyn, though.
Yeah, but ain't been in Brooklyn in a while. Very 99% white in the state that, supports this president. He supports Biden. So why hasn't he been more, you know what I'm saying? Like all of the people that supported Bernie Sanders, where has he been? He's been really quiet in his mittens and his, hey, Bernie, been really quiet.
Is that Brother Bernie?
Yes.
No, I love Brother Bernie. I just have a disagreement with him on this. So I think he has the same deep fear of Trump, and therefore he and AOC and the others prematurely came out so quickly support Biden. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that, good people disagree on things. I don't believe that everybody got to follow me. I'm not no Pied Piper, but I can tell you this, I don't like lying. You see, if you're going to support Biden, don't tell the world the way AOC says, he's done a pretty good job. No, all this gig economy, what do you think all the strikes are about? Why do you think they're about to shut the country down against UPS? Why do you think the workers are going out in Hollywood? This economy is not the best it can be. He hasn't done pretty good. He's done a few decent things, but don't lie to the people ever.
Well, it's better than the previous guy, is all I want to say. And I don't want to see the previous guy come back.
That's the truth there. But but you want to be able to always stay connected.
We want to be
with
our
the
best.
Suffering of the people.
Yes. Yeah, I agree with. 866-801-8255. I don't know why I'm giving out the number. Every line is lit. People want to talk to you, Cornel West. So I'm going to abdicate my throne right now and hand it over. And callers, be pithy. Get to the point. Don't somebody asked the question already. Hang up. You ain't got to ask the question a different way. Just let's go. Damon in Baltimore, you're up. Welcome.
Karen, thank you very much for having me, and Dr. West, thank you for coming on to the program. And I'll just say this: I get no pleasure out of this, but this campaign just feels like an exercise in narcissism. I don't see how this is supposed to progress us anywhere. We've already seen what damage can be done with your support that you gave to Jill Stein. And while it's important, all of the things that you're talking about, I think are important, but those should be issues that we are using to push the conversation instead of challenging the conversation. And I believe that you're doing more harm than good by challenging our best hope for being able to address those issues. So my question to you is, at what point do you step back? Because we know that you're not going to win, but at what point do you step back and you say, I want to help Biden to become the best person that he can be in this leadership post? And Karen, thank you again. I know the lines are lit.
Thank you.
I appreciate my brother raising the question. I mean, I don't like this talk about narcissism. He starts attacking me, my integrity or something. Come on, Damon, Baltimore. This ain't about narcissism. It's the last thing I need to do at my age. Just because I have a different conception of what it means to pursue truth and justice doesn't mean it can be reduced to narcissism. Good God Almighty, that sounds like talking points of these establishmentarian corporate media. No. We just have a different conception of how we go about pursuing truth and justice. If you had two parties like Frederick Douglass did in the 1850s, and both of them supported slavery, and he found the Liberty Party because he wants abolition of Black people. No, that's just an act of narcissism because you won't have any impact practically. You got to deal with whatever the two parties. No, both parties supporting slavery. One got a liberal version of slavery, one got a conservative version of slavery. You're still enslaved. What are we talking about here? People have different conceptions of how you pursue truth and justice without being narcissists, Brother Damon. that's the first point I want to make. But the second point I want to make is that if it is the case that Biden is pushing us toward World War III, if it is the case that he's not speaking to mass incarceration, he's not speaking to poverty, he's not speaking to decrepit schools and so forth, then all the pressure being brought to Biden in the world and Democratic Party, we've been doing that now for the last 20, 25 years, and they still haven't followed through on it. So what do you do? Now, I'm not saying that Damon's necessarily wrong, I'm necessarily right. I'm saying, let's just try to have a serious conversation without reducing it down to, well, we got to support the status quo. We got to support the status quo. No, that's not how Black folk have progressed over the years. Sometimes you got folk who do things that's outside of the existing framework.
But to Damon's point, and I think, I don't want to get hung up on the narcissism. I want to lean in on what he was saying, because if this puts us in a position to be harmed, because if Black people vote for their lives, I don't think we're even tied to a particular party as much as we are tied to living and breathing, right? And the climate in this country right now is very dangerous for us, and especially for folk who are going regular people, who may not have security and be in a coddled space, right? So for us, people are voting for their lives this time.
Absolutely, but people are voting for their lives whether Biden wins or Trump wins. Trump's already won. We had to deal with life issues for 4 years of vicious attack and so forth. But the idea that somehow Biden's going to create some great space, no, we have no evidence of that.
I don't think anybody believes that, Dr. West. I don't think anybody, listen, I've been very vocal on these airways. Biden was my first, second, or third choice. But here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. He's not Trump or DeSantis or any of those other Republicans who absolutely want to turn back the hands of time. Now, we're going to do what we need to do regardless. But yes, we want the best. But how do we get to the best? And let me stop talking and go to Tiffany in Atlanta, Georgia. Tiffany, hi, welcome.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. Dr. West, I always respected you. I still.
Oh no.
Okay. Like Karen stated earlier. Can you hear me?
Yes, you were going in and out quickly.
What? Okay, I'm gonna put. What I want to say is this: that at this point, you talked about Obama. Obama probably had certain ideas about what he could do when he got in there, and the reality was probably different. With Biden, we at least have someone at the table who will listen to us. You're not going to win. I know you know this. And so with you being as intelligent as you are, you have to know that you're taking votes away from a person we could at least go to the table with. If Trump gets in, DeSantis, any of the Republicans get in, we don't have anybody we can go to.
Okay. What do you say to that, Dr. West?
Well, one is I can feel the depth of the heartfelt power of what she's saying, though, and that does touch me. See, that's a little different than narcissism issue, because she's talking from her heart, you see. And the question would be, being able to sit at the table with Biden, even as the bombs are continually dropped on the West Banks, even though Wall Street still has greed that's out of control, even as poor folks still have needs unsatisfied. Yes, I think that she, dear sister, does have a point. It's just, for me, the question becomes, when do we ever tell our truths if all we can do is always be somehow concerned about being at the table? Because we've been at the table for so long and our folk are still suffering. We've been at the table so long, but the militarism abroad, taking 57 cents for every dollar, is increasing all the time. So does that mean that if the only choice is between this second civil war with Trump and the third world war with Biden, is that all we have? Is that all we can present to people? Just be at the table with a Joe Biden leading the World War III? That's the people's choice. I'm open to the choice, but at least I want to be able to raise my voice, Now, back to taking votes away, we should note that Jill Stein, 2/3 of Jill Stein's voters would not have voted at all. See, so she wasn't taking votes away from Biden at all. They just wouldn't vote. 38% of Americans don't vote at all. Almost 60% of young people don't vote at all. So if you get their vote, you're not taking any votes away from the Democrats. These folks have given up anyway for voting. They just happen to vote for somebody because they don't want to vote for the Democrats because the Democrats hadn't done enough for them. They haven't earned their vote. I mean, the Democrats oftentimes talk about Black people as if our vote is just private property. You owe us the vote. No, you got to earn the vote. You got to do something.
To your point, Dr. West, fewer than 40%, according to a Pew Research Center poll that came out yesterday, 37% of eligible Americans voted in the last 3 elections. 3 of the most important national elections. So you're absolutely right. So let's give them something to vote about.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I run my fingers through her hair as she smiles and says that she loves me. Isn't it lovely when the one you're lusting is